You're listening to the Loyalty Minute, the show that helps you build better customer loyalty and more valuable user engagement. With your host, Rob Gallo.
Welcome, loyal listeners, to another episode of the Loyalty Minute. I'm your host, Rob Gallo, and today I'm eager and excited to chat with Michael Huard. Michael is the content marketing manager at Iterable. It's a growth marketing company, and they do business with a lot of cool brands. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm super excited to be here.
Good stuff. Well, I know we're all dealing with the COVID-19 situation, and you're out in sunny California in the northern area. So let's give people a little perspective about you, your background, how you got to where you are, and what you're up to at the moment.
Sure. Yeah, my background is kind of all throughout content marketing. I work in a lot of multimedia projects, especially at Iterable. I'm working a lot on video and photography, but also a lot of research reports. Recently, I published a report that looked into the mobile marketing practices of 30 different companies across 6 different industries. We wanted to look at kind of the lifestyle. So we looked at dating and running and restaurants and eating, and then some retail as well. And obviously nowadays it's a little bit different, but when we did the research, it was very interesting to see exactly how these companies were using mobile marketing.
And with that sort of data that you collect that they do with mobile marketing, do you see a lot of crossover? So is that what they do? They try to connect the dots. So this person's a runner and they're eating more healthy. I mean, did they do that?
In some ways, it would depend on the use case. The connection that we were trying to find was more through how are they using our mobile behavior. What we would do, or what I would do, is go through and actually download the app, create an account, and then interact over the course of 3 weeks. Whether that was favoriting an item or going for a run or swiping right on certain profiles, it really depended on the industry that we were looking at. But the point was to see if our mobile behavior was being put into their broader campaigns, whether we were getting push notifications or in-app or even emails, if they were going cross-channel and actually sending us an email that was like, hey, we saw you, we're trying to purchase this item on our app. Here's a link to it to buy it on desktop, that kind of thing. It was really just an opportunity to see how the cross-channel experience was being used, and it was impacting the customer journey.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I generally start off most of the interviews and the conversations with the first question, and that is, what does customer loyalty mean to you as a consumer, Michael?
Mm-hmm. As a consumer, I would definitely say loyalty to me is all about trust. I trust that the brands I'm interacting with are, one, telling me the truth, and two, giving me a product that I'm going to enjoy and is going to benefit me in some way. And then once I actually buy, I trust that they're going to continue with that authenticity, and make sure that all of our experiences and interactions are going to benefit me as the consumer, but also in a different way. I think lately empathy has been a big part of marketing, and for me, that's kind of important. I want the brands that I interact with to kind of share the same values that I do, and they don't necessarily need to express it, but I want them to at least touch on it in a way that makes me feel comfortable buying from them and continuing to use their products.
Yeah, I read an article on Loyalty 360, which is kind of like the Bible of the loyalty space, brand loyalty, customer loyalty. And they did say exactly that in recent times, specifically now with COVID-19 shutdowns and stuff, that people want to make sure that the brands they do business with are doing social good behind the scenes. And they don't have to physically express it, but it's kind of part of their corporate culture. And it really resonates with people today more so than anything else. So that's beyond points and incentives and offers and cash back and things like that. Those are all great. And those are kind of gauges to see from the marketer's perspective or the brand's perspective, how active is your interaction with us? And then we can see that and we can gauge it right there in the numbers, because the numbers show how much you do with us and stuff like that. So it's fascinating, but I know that a lot of brands specifically now are struggling with it. Even though it seems common sense, a lot of brands are struggling with that exact thing. So let's flip the tables Michael, and turn the tables and put you behind the scenes. And you work with a lot of big name customer, clients that have customers who are loyal to that brand. And what sort of things do you think that they're doing that make their brands more attractive and to their end users?
Yeah, there's a number of ways to build that kind of loyalty, and we've seen it really happen through personalization. I think that's something that every marketer is touching into and everyone's talking about. But there's just so many ways to do it, and it's really about fine tuning it to whatever your certain use case is. I saw it in the report from the running apps. They really wanted to personalize it to let you build your own challenges. A lot of times, at least previously that I've seen in running apps that I've used, it's a lot about, hey, we have a coach. Why don't you use that? I've seen that it's really moved on to, okay, let the user control that, let the consumer control that, and you can build that by creating your own challenge and building your own platform, or not platform, programming, to build out a better system for you. So I think it's really about letting the user drive the journey rather than you trying to direct them in certain ways. You could do that in some ways. We saw that with like in-app messaging. You can kind of direct them and tell them what features they should take a look at. But really, it's about letting the user control it, find where they're going, follow their behavior, and then tailor your messaging to that rather than the inverse, because it's about their experience more than what you think should be their experience.
I think you're spot on, and it sounds plausible. It sounds easy, so to say, or logical. But for some of the listeners out there that may have an app already that's out there and don't have that sort of thought process or ability to even do that. I mean, is that a technical thing in the back end so is that what Iterable does?
Yeah, it's definitely what Iterable does. We find a way to make sure that you have no data silos in the background. A lot of times what will happen is someone that will, like, I would do something on mobile and then I would get an email saying, hey, download the app. And it's like, I already did that 15 days ago. I thought you would know that. So it's one of those things where you got to break down the data silos. If all of your data is in one spot, it's easier to attribute or to like find the attribution of where the ROI is. You can find out that, okay, push is doing really well for us. Let's try to get some more personalization into that push messaging versus just kind of sending it out blind, or having one email team working on one pathway while the mobile team is working on another one. It's about a cohesive experience in the back end for you, and having data in one spot that makes it easier to see the complete user profile. You want to know exactly what your users are doing at all times. It sounds creepy, but it doesn't have to be. You can make it a way that works best for everyone. But as long as it's all in one spot, you're not missing anything.
I completely agree. I mean, two points you mentioned there. The creepiness, it is a little bit weird. And I mentioned in a previous episode where, like, I had bought a table in the backyard for the backyard, and I was looking at some, and then I went to another page and I got distracted with work, as always is the case. And then I came back and I saw it on like another page and another page. So it was the retargeting. I get that. But then I saw something that was pretty cool. I saw a retargeting after I had purchased it. And I don't know if it knew that I purchased it, because I didn't really purchase it online. I actually went to the store and bought it. But it asked me, did you already buy this item? And it was a little drop down in the, kind of like where it said, I don't think it was AdSense. I forget what it was. I hit it and I said, yes. And then I don't see that anymore, which I thought was really cool. But that must have been
I haven't seen that before.
Ad deliverable level. But anyway, the other thing that you mentioned, though, that I was curious about is, so Iterable does the platform building. Do you do the actual work of communicating with the end users on behalf of your clients?
No, we don't. So the process is for Iterable, it goes that we provide the platform for them to build their campaigns in. Mm-hmm. If they wanted to communicate, we have a workflow editor that allows them to say, here's the trigger point of I don't know, Michael downloaded an app, and then it can send me a push 2 or 3 days later. Maybe that there's a yes or no that comes off of that. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe I didn't push the notification, so it'll send me an email. It's basically building off of whatever information you're able to collect, and then create a campaign on whatever channel you want and whatever frequency. We also have stuff like send time optimization, because we know that sometimes you're just not going to open an email if you get it at 2 a.m. Like I noticed that last year I did a report on news media, and I subscribed to 30 news media publications and 3 newsletters for each one. And I was getting these emails at just the worst hours for me to possibly read it. So I'd wake up and the newsletter was already 20 emails down, and I didn't see it. So the open rate is obviously going to drop, and the click-through rate is going to drop even further. So those are the sorts of ways that we can help our customers optimize their customer experience for their own consumers and customers.
Yeah. I saw an interesting thing on HubSpot. This is probably 6 months ago, and I've known it probably for the last 2.5 years in my other business that I do, is that Tuesday mornings between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. in that person's local time is the best time to get an open in an email. I'm not sure exactly why. I guess maybe it's past Monday, right? You've got the weekend's worth of nonsense you have to get through. And then Tuesday, you're like, all right, let's look for something fresh. So between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m., when it gets into somebody's email box, the open rate is, well, for me, it went up almost 30% for me, which was good. And, so I share that with people so they can kind of leverage it. But to dovetail back into customer loyalty and brand loyalty, which again, I think part of what it sounds like you guys do at Iterable is create that base of allowing your clients who are leveraging your platform to communicate with their customers in such a way that it creates that personalization. And at the top of the show, you mentioned that's really what drives Michael in terms of being loyal to a brand, right? So that makes perfect sense. Exactly. And that, I like that. So let me ask you this. As a marketing professional, can you share some of the pain points that you have when it comes to creating that interaction with your customers, your clients, let's say, and how they're going to use it to build loyalty?
Sure. So from my perspective of talking to my customers.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the biggest pain point is I'm a marketer marketing to marketers. And so we all know the tricks. We know what's going to be a lie or what's just kind of fluff and a buzzword. So for me, for my personal role as a content marketer, I have to make sure that I'm providing value. And I think that's something that every marketer can empathize with. We're trying to provide value to our customers and make sure that it makes sense and is actionable. And so that's what we kind of try to pass on to our customers in their journeys using Iterable, is that we want them to make sure that they understand the customer wants value. And the best way to do that is by making sure that everything's tailored to their experience and what they're looking for.
Yeah. So to elaborate on that point, then, when you're dealing with a client and you're saying what works, they need to be able to see it. How does it deliver value to me as your client to interact with my end users in such a way that, again, it's going to bolster my brand's appeal to my clients? Because that's the end game, really. So you're kind of like B to B to C, because you build it, at least in my mind, for the end user and to make it easier for your client to interact with their users.
Exactly. You're spot on. It's B2B to C. We internally talk about how we connect people with products that bring them joy. We help our clients have a better connection with their customers. And so it's really, in order to do that, we have to have a good connection with our customers, obviously. Like we have a stellar professional services team that makes sure to show every in and out of the product, as well as in and out of the industry and what they could possibly try with different channels and different messaging. And as you talk about, with different loyalty programs and different possibilities of enhancing that experience for the user. It's really,
We got a thunderstorm here. My dogs are going nuts. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's fine. I would be too, probably.
So,
yeah.
yeah, I wanted to just kind of touch on, we don't, what the show is really about loyalty, but loyalty, in my mind, at least goes way beyond points and rewards and things like that. And as we touched on, it's each individual's interaction with that brand. And we talked about Southwest. I'm a Southwest guy. I go to Shell's fuel oil, fuel rewards in order to earn rewards to get discounts on gas, but it's things that I'm going to do anyway, so it's not really changing someone's behavior, I think, but it's kind of adapting to their behavior to give them the most value of still interacting with your brand. That's the way I think about it. Anyway.
Exactly. And I think we've seen a lot of companies do that recently. One of the things I did was look at some of the industries that were in the remote report that I did and saw how they changed their messaging after COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the companies actually stepped up and just spoke honestly and were just like, hey, look, we're in this situation too. But here's here's what we've done to make it a little bit easier on you to use it. One of the examples is the dating services that I actually made a profile for and did the research as an actual person looking for a date. But I've noticed that recently they've been like, hey,
if it worked?
Obviously,
did it work?
No, it didn't work. But maybe for the next report, I'll give it a try again. Okay. But yeah, so they under COVID, a lot of the companies have been enforcing the shelter in place. They've been, hey, you can't meet in person, but we're hosting this virtual event that you might be able to come and meet some people. Or they've been providing resource guides of how to better get better conversations going via apps or via or text, or they've been facilitating Zoom dates. It's really just they've pivoted completely in a very in-person industry to make it easier for the users. It's really cool to see.
That's another great point. Again, to talk about building brand loyalty and brand trust is the adaptation to the current situation, whatever it may be, because there'll be something beyond COVID-19 in the future, just like in 2008 when we had the financial crisis. The world seemed like falling apart, but those companies that adapted and adjusted are still with us, and the ones that didn't went by the wayside. So I think that's going to be the same instance here. If you can keep your customers through the most trying times, that's loyalty.
Definitely.
So before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what sort of actionable advice could you give our listeners today that they could do right now that would increase or attract more customers and help them retain those customers?
Yeah, today, I think as I just mentioned, everyone's going through kind of the same thing. It's a matter of how it's affecting your business. And I'd say don't be afraid. That's the biggest actionable advice I can give right now. We looked at some of the messages that our customers sent between February and April, and email volume increased, but so did open rates and clicks, and even purchases grew, and interactions with these channels have grown. People are available now. So don't be afraid to send a message out. It's not gonna bother them right now. They're going to be available and they'll want to see it. But I think even beyond that, it's just find a way to have one source of truth for your data. That's probably the biggest thing in the long term. The first thing is definitely just for the specific situation, but long term, it's all about keeping your data in one spot so that you know what's coming in, what's going out, who's interacting with what, and how you can use it. It gives you a full view of everything, and that just makes your life so much easier when you're trying to personalize. If you're looking at a customer profile and you're only seeing 3 out of 5 things, or if your data is disappearing after a month due to server issues, your chance of creating a long-term relationship is really, really going to drop, because as we all know, lifetime value is going to be the most important thing. You want to retain these customers. So I think keeping your data in one spot, breaking down those silos, that's probably the biggest piece for a long-term success.
Yeah. And then to add to that, I think leveraging the data. So, it sounds easy that someone has all their data in one spot. But I think what you're saying also at Iterable is to show them step by step, if this person does this, then you're better off saying this to that person, and you create the sort of tree. And this is machine learning is doing it now infinitely with the sort of chat bots now that are prevalent everywhere. And I see some of them that are great and some of them that really stink, where I can't think of the specific names, but one of them was just outstanding. It took me through, and I knew it was a machine that it was talking to me, but it took me through, and I think it really analyzed what I was saying and picked out the keywords, but interpreted what I said. And maybe I don't want to say the vernacular that I used, but it understood what I was asking. And Google has obviously gotten way better at that in normal search results than it had in years past, but it's all good stuff. But I could talk about this stuff forever, but I know, the attention span of the average listener is 25 minutes. So we're going to wrap it up now. But what I want to do also is if the listeners want to get a hold of you, Michael, what would be the best way to do that?
Best way to get a hold of me is LinkedIn, and just, LinkedIn's the best way. Michael Huard, pretty easy to find. Just look for content marketing at Iterable, and I'll be there, and I'm happy to talk about any of this stuff, just like you.
Great stuff. All right, I'll put it in the show notes. I want to thank you for being on the program. I appreciate it. I want to thank our loyal listeners for investing some of their valuable time with us. If you feel you received value from the show, we would definitely appreciate a 5-star review on your favorite listening podcast streaming service. And if you know someone else who might value listening to this podcast, please do share. That's how we grow. To reference this and other Loyalty Minute episodes, please visit theloyaltyminute.com. Enjoy and stay safe.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for your next edition of the Loyalty Minute.